Ebenezer Jeremiah Brown. I'm a football supporter of Ipswich Town. Wherever they play, you'll find me. I haven't missed a game since I was 3, with me scarf and me rattle and a big rosette, singing where was the goalie when the ball was in the net. Follow the town, up or down. I'm Edward Ebenezer Jeremiah Brown, but everybody call me Ted.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of We Follow the Town, a weekly show looking into all things Ipswich, and I'm going to go straight into it. I'm joined today by Football League World journalist and AFC Wimbledon magazine editor Chris Thorpe. And just to begin with, I'm going to ask a rather cliched question, because we're of course talking about the game from last. How do you rate AFC Wimbledon's season so far? Was the game last night an important result in regards to survival?
Oh, without a doubt, it was an important result. That goes without saying. We've been fighting for our lives these past few weeks, and well, for much of the campaign, really, it started off really positively. Picked up a few decent wins away from home, and things were looking good. But then COVID hit, a few problems with injuries, that sort of thing, sort of disrupted our momentum. Unfortunately, Glyn Hodges departed, and we've got Mark Robinson in shortly after, who's completely changed the style of play, and we're playing a lot of attacking football now, and we're looking to play every game on the front foot. So two brilliant results, including not only the one last night, but also the 5-1 win against Accrington Stanley away. So it's been a complete roller coaster of a season, really.
So we'll talk a bit more about your work in a minute, and if you're in the comments, feel free to get involved. But Mark Robinson, he's no stranger to the club. He's been at the club for 9 years, if I'm right in saying that. So is it good that you actually have somebody managing you who knows something about the club, who's been at the club for a while, and who knows what it's like to be there, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. Robbo's been with us since 2004, actually. He started just doing some foundation coaching, I believe, and then he's literally progressed through the levels. The importance of sort of having someone who's worked at various levels of the club is even more sort of pivotal than just the playing side, because he knows a lot of the players that are in the current first team squad from bringing them through the academy, and he knows them well as people, so he knows what their mentality is like. I know he puts a lot of work into the psychological side of football, away from just being in the dugout and the day-to-day management on the training ground. So he's always looking to learn, and having that relationship with not only the players but also the other staff really helps things. And I feel like there's that good cohesion and family feel all around the club at the moment, and that can only be a good thing.
So do you think the fans appreciate that somebody who's been at the club for a while is actually managing them? Because surely there's that, I don't really know how to feel it, but surely they have feelings towards him, because he's been at the club and he's a familiar face. Yeah,
absolutely. He was a very popular choice. I mean, obviously there was a few names mentioned for the job, as you'd expect. You always get these betting odds that link every single name under the sun with it. But he was always one of the most popular choices, and I can't say anyone was frustrated when he was appointed. Not that I know of, anyway. And we all know him well. We all know what he's all about. We all know he's got a great attitude, and he deserves his chance in the top role for all his years of service to Wimbledon as a club. So we just want to see what he can do, and by all means, we'll give him the platform to do so. And it's going well so far. So long may it continue.
So let's talk more about your career as a journalist, because we didn't really give you a proper introduction onto this show. So you write for Football League World. You're the editor of the AFC Wimbledon Match Day programme, if I'm right in saying that. How did you get into being the editor at AFC Wimbledon? Because, that's a pretty good job, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's a brilliant job, and it's an absolute privilege. But the story goes, so I was unfortunately made redundant due to the pandemic. I'm not the only one. I know millions of people have lost their jobs throughout this tough 12-month period. And I was basically doing removals just to get some money. Looking at me, I'm not the most stocky bloke. I'm not really used to physical labour, but I just did what I could to sort of get by until I found something else. And then luckily got a call from my good friend of mine, Ivor Heller, who's the commercial director at Wimbledon, who I'd obviously known previously, and he sort of said, we've got this opportunity for you to work for the club as the program editor. And I thought, oh yeah, like I've always bought the program and always been a fan of it, and it was obviously a big step up. But I said yes straight away. You can't turn down the opportunity to work for the club that you supported your whole life. It was sort of bang, I'll take it. I didn't even think about it twice. And yeah, it's been brilliant. First time I've ever been an editor, so I've sort of had to learn how to stay organized. I think that's the most important thing. And also to be creative, because I sort of gave myself the remit that I had to completely overhaul what we'd had before with the program and make it as interesting as possible for supporters, because it's a very unique situation this season. You don't have fans going to the games and buying the program on the spot. That's part of people's match day routine, but it's completely different this season. So we've had the digital format, and then more recently we've brought in the printed format, to be more traditional, because we've done a survey with the fans. A lot of people said they wanted it back, so we brought it back, and it's proven successful. People are buying it and getting it ordered to their house in time for the match. And yeah, we've had some really positive feedback, but at the same time, I have to make the point that I'll listen to negative feedback as well, because that's important. If the fans aren't happy, then I'm not happy. And, all that it's about is doing the best for the club. And that's what I've tried to do for this whole season. So yeah, it's been brilliant, mate.
So again, another cliched question, but what have the challenges been of actually producing the magazine during a pandemic? Because as you just said, it's a lot different than doing one traditionally, in the sense that, like you're having fans in the stadium, you're having fans actually buying the program, but it's different, isn't it?
Yeah, no, the biggest problem's probably been the rearranged games. At one point this season, I think we had 3 games in 7 days. So that's just a logistical nightmare. It was okay with the digital format because you get a little bit more time. Obviously, you don't have printing deadlines. Printing deadlines bring the deadlines forward. So you've got to tell every single contributor, we need this by this date, etc. And, other things get in the way. People have lives and day jobs that they have to do, and they don't necessarily have time to write 500 words for me at the drop of a hat. So just sort of staying organized in order to counteract that problem has been the most challenging thing. But we've actually managed it okay. It's worked out all right. And even if someone can't do a contribution for one reason or another, there's always someone else to step up. So I've always been really grateful for that. And Carlo Rossi, the designer who designs the program, he's been brilliant with me. Only met him at the start of the season, and we've been a great team. So yeah, it's just been the congested fixture schedule, really. I would say it's been the biggest problem.
So let's review the game, because I'm first of all interested in hearing what your thoughts are on Ipswich, because we're not doing too well this season despite our league position. We've of course had some changes in the boardroom. We have new owners, we have a new manager, but things still aren't going well, and I think you saw that last night. So yeah, what are your thoughts from an outsider of Ipswich Town?
I mean, it's early days with Paul Cook in charge. You don't need me to tell you about his managerial credentials. You saw the brilliant work he done at Wigan and Portsmouth, of course, and even Chesterfield before that. I remember when he was managing Chesterfield against us, he was brilliant then. With Ipswich, I think, he doesn't know what his strongest team is at the moment. And you've seen that with the changes that he's made recently. I think he said in an interview after last night's game, he's used 23 players already, which is, almost the whole of the squad. And I just feel like he's looking for the right system to get results at a point of the season where you can't really afford to rest on your laurels too much. He needs results. I think you're 5 points off the playoff places now. So, he's against the clock. And I think you're only really going to see what Paul Cook's all about next season, because this summer, obviously, he's going to overhaul the squad and bring in a lot of new players. I think it'll be a younger squad as well. You've got quite an old squad. Obviously, a lot of experience in there and quality. That's, some players probably good enough for the Championship on their day. But yeah, I just think it's early days. And, obviously, Ipswich being a big club, you expect to be in the Championship, getting promoted out of League One. This is your second season here now. You know how hard a division it is. Maybe it was underestimated at first, but now you fully know how hard it is. You've seen with Sunderland, for example, how long they've stayed in League One. I just think show some patience with Cookie, because he's a brilliant manager, and he'll find the system that suits his style of play, and he'll get the players in that'll suit his style of play. It might not happen this season, Of course, he was given the remit to try and get a playoff place, but it's looking unlikely now. And for me, it just looked like they were lacking a real sort of identity and sort of idea of how they wanted to play last night. And I think that's just because the new manager's sort of just come in, and it's going to take time. With Robbo, he came in and he didn't start winning games straight away. It's progress. You've got to give people time to implicate their methods, and now we're starting to see the results of that. So maybe further down the line you'll see that with Ipswich, but I don't think it will happen this season, and I don't think it will happen when people want it to happen, if that makes sense.
Yes, and of course both teams came into last night's game, with like different feelings, if that makes sense. Because Ipswich came off the back of two board draws, team performances that didn't exactly set the world alight, and you came off the back of a 5-1 win against Accrington Stanley. So, were you expecting to get something out of a poor Ipswich side last night? Because as Paul Cook said during the post-match interview, we are a free hit at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I said to a lot of my friends before the game that I felt that we didn't have as much pressure on us as you did. I think there's a far bigger expectation amongst your fan base to be getting back to the Championship than there is amongst ours to be staying in League One. If we're talking realistic, our budget is of a League Two club, really. Not to downplay our achievements, because we deserve to be in League One because we worked hard to get there, of course. But yeah, we knew the pressure was more on Ipswich, and we knew if we could harness that sort of confidence and energy we showed against Accrington, that we could perform well against Ipswich on home turf. And I think you saw from the opening stages that we just knew we could get out at you. And personally, I didn't expect us to score from a set piece, but I know we've been working on that heavily. We've got in Andy Parslow, who's our set piece coach. He's been working on a lot of things, and Will obviously popped up with a brilliant bullet header. And then obviously the second sort of came from out wide again with O'Neill with a cross for Rudy. So yeah, I just feel like we kept the same attitude from the last game, and we sort of took advantage of that pressure that's on Ipswich. And I think you saw it. I saw a lot of your players getting frustrated, even miscontrolling simple passes. I saw Keenan Bennett do that a few times. Greon Edwards, very experienced winger. He didn't really have as good a game as I would have expected. And James Norwood, I don't know if he's fully fit. He's not really at his best. I've seen a lot better from him at Tranmere and with Ipswich last season, maybe. So I think there's a few problems there. But no, I wasn't expecting you guys to be a free hit by all means. I was expecting a tougher game. But obviously the red card completely changed things. But then again, we were 2-0 up by that point. But yeah, no, I don't think it was a free hit at all.
So do you reckon it's more of a question of mentality? Because in my opinion, our players are quite mentally weak in the way that they don't really have their hearts at the club. Because, like a lot of these players are out of contract in the summer. They're not necessarily playing for a new contract. They know that they're going to, get released anyway. And your team, they want to stay up. They're playing well at the moment. So, yeah, do you reckon it's a question of mentality more than anything?
I think it could be mentality, yeah. I think also I'm a big believer in consistency in football. I think if you have a consistent starting 11, that breeds good habits. And then you begin to see results from that as players build on-pitch relationships, not just as a team of 11, but also, relationships between the goalkeeper and the centre-halves. You're playing a three-at-the-back system. That's a system that's not easy to get your head around if you haven't been playing much of it. For much of the campaign, I think you guys were 4 at the back before you had Chambers as a right back, and obviously Wolfenden's been out injured a bit this season as well. So I think creating that cohesion is going to take, again, I'm talking about it again, it's going to take time. So I would say it's a mentality thing, and I feel that changing the formation and changing the starting 11 isn't going to help things. I think he has to keep it consistent. I think the best route of action for the next game would actually to keep the same starting 11. Obviously, Josh Harrop won't be there because he's suspended, but keep the majority of the starting 11 for the next game and sort of just work on building those on-pitch relationships, because if you keep changing it, you're not going to get consistency. Most people realise that, and that's why there's always that talk in football of, oh, what's his best team? Does he know his best team? That's why you always hear that. So I think consistency is key if you want to build that winning mentality.
So let's read through a few of the comments, and thank you very much to those who've taken part. Carry on putting down your thoughts and your comments in the chat. Ryan Wazzer, I have no words left from last night's performance. I've never felt so ashamed. Reese Curtis, last night was an embarrassment. Ryan Wazzer, we just spoke about the red card. Harrop showed how much he cares about Ipswich Town by losing his head like that. And Reese Curtis again, we can't score goals, yet alone win a game, yet alone make the playoffs. So you can obviously see how frustrated we are as a club. But let's talk about the formation a minute. Ipswich Town lined up with a 3-5-2. That obviously changed after the red card. Aaron Dryden played up front. He isn't a great striker. He hasn't really done much this season. So that was a confusing addition to the side. AFC Wimbledon played a 4-3-1-2. I don't know what you would say on that, whether that's the right formation. And you played with Ollie Palmer and Joe Pigott up front. First of all, what do you make of the formation? Has your manager gotten you playing the perfect system at the moment? Because as you said, it's taken a while for him to embed his style. It's taken a while for him to get going. But you're actually doing quite well at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, no, that formation's definitely been our best since Robbo took over. Initially, he sort of came in and employed a 4-2-3-1. Longman, who didn't start last night, but of course scored the third goal. He was previously starting as on the left of an attacking midfield three behind Pigott, who's a lone striker, and he was a bit isolated. You know, Pigott. Anyone who's seen him play regularly knows he works well best in a front two. So that's why Ollie Palmer's come in there. Palmer's had a tough season, really, with injury and fitness problems, but he's starting to find the back of the net regularly now, and he's got his confidence right up. So the idea is them two playing as a two, and then obviously the midfield is probably the strongest area of our squad. Dobson's been amazing since he came on loan from Sunderland in January. Real coup for us. So good and calm in possession. I've rarely seen him lose the ball, and he's also got that tenacious side to win the ball back. Woodyard as well. This was his first game back since suspension. He played against Accrington, but yeah, it's good to have him back from his suspension that he previously had, because again, he's a player who likes to win the ball back. Not the most pretty and sort of precise on the eye with his passing, but he's in there to do the job to get the ball back as quickly as possible, and he did that really well last night. Rudoni and Asal, their roles aren't necessarily set to just staying in that diamonds. As you saw a lot last night, Asal moves around a lot and presses from the front, so quite often when Holy had the ball, it would be Asal breaking through the lines to press him, rather than someone like Pigott or Palmer, who aren't as quick and energetic as Asal. And also Rudy is a player who's played wide right for a lot of the campaign, so he drifts a lot. So it's not very static sort of formation. It's very versatile, and it sort of gets the best out of our creative players, but also when we're defending, we defend as a group, and the midfield is solid and goes back into that sort of diamond shape. And that's why you saw Asal sort of snapping in with tackles, Rudy snapping in with tackles. And that was something we didn't really see from those kind of players earlier in the campaign under Glyn. Not that that's any disservice to Glyn, because he had his own methods, and every manager's different. But it's good to see all of the players sort of working as a team to win the ball back. So yeah, I would say this formation has definitely changed things for us, and I think we'll stick with it until the end of the campaign.
So has Mark Robinson improved you defensively? Because in my opinion, last night you were solid defensively. Ipswich Town didn't really give you many problems at all. So defensively, again, has Mark Robinson kind of improved you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. End of the day, we're playing a lot more football, and I know this squad, having interviewed a lot of the players, enjoy playing more of a possession game. And I think they're getting confidence from getting more time on the ball. But we're not over the top with it. You know, when we get a goal kick, we're not playing it short from the goal kick where, you know, the centre-halves drop inside the penalty area and the full-backs drop to the byline. We're not doing that. We're not overplaying. You know, we've built up these relationships. Like I was saying about Ipswich, what they need to improve on. We've built up these on-pitch relationships. Nightingale's been playing regularly with Ben Hennigan. He was suspended last night. That's why you saw Callum Bailly come in. but Nightingale's played regularly. Guinness Walker's played regularly at left back, and O'Neill has also started to play regularly again. And they've sort of built that relationship, that on-pitch relationship, and they've brought in well to the sort of style of play, and they don't overplay. Like I say, they do the basics correctly, and there's not too much to it. I mean, if they have to clear the ball, they clear the ball long, and we chase down the loose ball once it's been cleared long and try and win the second ones. And it's just simple as that, getting the basics right and not overplaying at the back. And yeah, you're pretty fine. And Zanev's been fantastic since he came in as our number one choice in goal. That's another sort of problem area for us. We had Conal Truman on loan from Birmingham City, but for one reason or another, he went back there. Then we had Sam Walker come in from Reading. He picked up a knee injury. So he's currently receiving treatment back there in Berkshire. And now we have Zanev, who's been with the club for a good few years now, and he's performing brilliantly and really taking the challenge on and yeah, performing brilliantly. Made a penalty save in the last minute against Northampton Town recently when we won 1-0. And then we've also got Matthew Cox on the bench, who's only 18 years old, and he's already been linked with all of these big clubs because he's such a talented goalkeeper. Comes off his line quickly, brilliant selection of passes that he can do out from the back. So he's a really great modern goalkeeper. So from a defensive point of view, we're finally sort of getting to where we want to be, and I think that's testament to Robbo and his coaching methods.
So, Reece Curtis, that's the difference between Wimbledon and Ipswich. It looks as though we have 11 strangers on the pitch. So let's actually get into the game because AFC Wimbledon obviously started the better in the 7th minute. Ollie Palmer wasn't far away from getting in on the end of a long Nesta Guinness-Williams throw-in, which Thomas Holy gratefully grabbed. And on the 14th minute, Downs broke forward and fed Ryan into his left. And the Irishman hit a low shot, which Don's keeper claimed down to his right. Now, that was the only shot that we had on target, which more or less sums up how we've been playing so far. So in the first half, you very much dominated things. You very much dominated the pattern of play, and you looked the better side. Did you kind of have a feeling watching the first half that you were going to come away with the win? Because as I just mentioned, we weren't creating anything up front. We weren't going forward at all, really. And again, you were by far the better side.
I just think we sort of took advantage of going ahead early on, and we sort of hit you with the second goal not long after. I can't remember how many minutes it was off the top of my head, but we sort of hit you with 2 quick goals, and then as soon as the red card came, I sort of felt that we'd see out the win. That hasn't always been the case this season, but because of the confidence that we've got as both a fan base and as a team from the win over Accrington, I sort of felt like we could see out the job, and we did. We managed the game perfectly in the second half. When we had possession, we weren't always driving forward because that would have left too many gaps for you guys to exploit on the counter attack when you did get a rare opportunity to make some forays forward. And at one stage, I remember we had a break down the right-hand side, and O'Neill, instead of whipping a cross in, he just decided to play it back, and we literally kept possession and kept you guys chasing and obviously making your legs tire even more. And then to bring some extra energy into the game ourselves and rest some of our more creative players, we took Asau and Rudoni off, brought on Oxenden and Shane McLaughlin. McLaughlin's a very energetic player. Obviously set up the third goal for Ryan Longman, and Oxenden's a player who can keep possession well. He's on loan from Brentford, really talented Finnish youth international. And we sort of managed the game well in that perspective, where we weren't giving Asau and Rudy too many minutes, because obviously we've got Swindon at the weekend, another big game for us. They're right in the relegation mire, as it were. So we managed it well in that respect. And yeah, to be quite honest, once you went down to 10 men, I didn't feel like we'd mess it up. Maybe that sounds a bit arrogant, but just the way I felt. You get that every time another side goes down to 10 men, it completely changes their game plan, and it makes them have to do a lot more of the thinking rather than us. So yeah, I was very confident.
So let's talk about the red card, because in my opinion, it was a red card. I know a lot of town fans may disagree with that. But on the 28th minute, Harrop was shown a straight red card. The midfielder went in late on Guinness Walker, who flew into the air screaming. He was immediately given a red card, Harrop was. So do you reckon it was a harsh red card, or do you reckon it was justified? Because the game more or less changed after that. Ipswich had no hope of getting back in it at all.
I think it was, I'm not just saying that because I'm a Wimbledon fan. I just have to sort of say, look, he went in with too much force, and I think he knows that. If you were to ask Josh Harrop, like, what he thought about that challenge, he'd probably say he wasn't, happy with himself because, it doesn't matter what the rules are. Everyone knows nowadays that referees don't need another invitation to bring out a red card if they see a challenge that has excessive force behind it. And obviously Nesta's reaction told you all you needed to know. Like, it could have been a lot worse for him. Luckily he could play on. But yeah, I don't like to dig out players who make mistakes. Harrop's a good player, a good professional, obviously done well at Preston and Manchester United in the past. But yeah, he'll know he's made a mistake there, and definite red card. I think most people would agree with that.
So after that, you more or less saw out the first half. Ipswich didn't really offer anything going forward at all. And again, that can be said about the second half as well, because in the second half, we tried to make changes. We tried to change it up a little bit, but obviously nothing happened. Do you reckon AFC Wimbledon were happy almost to just see out the game, because you knew you were in possession, you knew you were going to get most of the ball anyway, and if the third goal came, then yeah, the third goal would come. But were you more or less happy just to see the game out, because you knew we were down to 10 men and you knew we wouldn't really offer anything going forwards?
I think we were, first and foremost, happy to see out the game and just obviously get the 3 points. That's the priority. But like I mentioned to you earlier, bringing on the subs sort of gave us that extra bit of energy. And obviously McLaughlin just breaking forward from mid. Longman, as you would have seen, aside from his goal, he's got so much energy about his play, pressing high from the front. We didn't stop doing that all night. I think bringing on those substitutes gave us that bit extra to grab that third goal. Because if we hadn't made those changes, I'm not sure we would have added to our lead. Okay, we had a few chances after going 2-0 up and moving into the second half, but we weren't exactly peppering you, as it were. I don't feel like we tested Holy as much as we could have. So yeah, in the end, I do feel like we were happy with our lead, our 2-0 lead. That's always a lead that prompts a lot of caution, and it only took. You did have that chance where the cross came into Norwood, and obviously he headed over when 9 times out of 10 he probably buried that. It only takes one chance, then you're back in the game. So it's good that we made the subs at the right time, and it's good that they obviously came on and made an impact and got that third goal. So, if we hadn't have scored that third, I would have been as happy as I am now. It's just a bonus we scored 3 in the end and not 2.
So let's talk about McLaughlin a minute, because he did used to play for Ipswich Town. He came through the youth academy. He made one appearance for us, and I think a few fans were disappointed that we let him go, because we do have a habit of letting go quite a few youngsters who do go on to have promising careers, a bit like Jack Marriott, for example, who's done well so far. So how has he been for you, McLaughlin? Because he was a player Town fans were intrigued to see, and we were kind of hoping to see him start, though as a Town fan I don't know whether he's anywhere near the first team or not. So how's he done for you?
Yeah, it's been an interesting season for Shane. He started at right wing back under Glyn when we played a 5 at the back system, and he was arguably our best player. I think he would have been, if you had asked a lot of fans and using his sort of engine, as it were, rather than just being a central midfielder, because he's not a midfielder in the sense that he can be a playmaker and ping, a 50-yard diag and little short 1-2s and stuff like that. He's not that kind of player at all. He's just the box to box. So he worked really well in that wing back slot. And then since Robbo's come in, he sees him more as a midfielder. He actually said in an interview that he'd like to try him as a number 10. But, we sort of moved into this diamond now, and as I said, we've begun to become set on that midfield four being Dobson, Woodyard, Rudy, and Asal. And now he can't really get in, but he's still a great option because of the energy that he provides. And obviously he is versatile. If we really needed him to, he would slot in at right back. But Robbo definitely sees him more as a midfielder. But yeah, he's a great utility player to have. Ask any manager if you could have a player that can play several positions. It's always beneficial for the squad, especially when you pick up injuries like we have. But yeah, I still think we're yet to find his permanent position, but I do feel like it'll be in midfield as long as Robbo's in charge, and obviously Robbo's going to be here for a good while yet. So yeah, I'd expect to see him in midfield. Whether he can nail down a starting spot long term is up to him. But he's a useful squad option to have.
So we're going to wrap up the show soon, and I just want to thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. Finally, who would you say is AFC Wimbledon's player of the season? Because I saw loads of really good players on the pitch last night, and I was actually quite impressed with how you played, because you weren't just like the better side because we were playing poorly, if that makes sense. You actually outplayed a rather good Ipswich Town team, because if you look at the players individually, they do have quality. So just to get back to my original question, who would you say is your player of the season?
Put me on the spot here. I'd have a few candidates, but if I'm being totally honest, and this isn't me digging out any of the lads, they've not all been consistent over the course of the season to warrant the award. But if I was basing it on players during the Glyn Hodges era and players during the Robbo era, I'd do it like this. I'd do Shane McLaughlin, player of the season under Glyn, because of his performance as a right wing back. All energy, brilliant, going up and down the line. And then under Robbo has to be Ayub Assal. He's come from the academy as a previously sort of unknown quantity to most of the fan base, and he's been absolutely brilliant. His attitude off the pitch is spot on. He's so ambitious. He feels like he can make it the very top of football. He's already been capped at youth level by Morocco. We've got really big hopes for him, and he's just settled in seamlessly. And that's a credit to not only the first team staff, but also the academy staff who have handled him since he joined us as a youngster from Millwall. He's come through in this environment, and the way that we've built this environment, the first team environment, is the same as the academy environment, so that when a player steps up, they don't feel daunted by it at all. They fully settle in, and they know how we want to play football under Robbo. And he's taken it in his stride. And the fact that he's got 4 goal contributions in his last 2 games is amazing for someone who's only 18 years old. So, yeah, for me, Shane McLaughlin, first half of the season, best player. Second half of the season, Ayub Assal. So I couldn't pick one, sorry.
So, final question before we wrap up the show. You play Swindon next, and Swindon aren't doing well at all. They're 23rd in the league, if I'm right in saying that. Do you see that as a pivotal game? Because if you win, you more or less are in a fantastic position. Swindon, they're more or less a free hit. They're not doing well at all. So what are your predictions heading into that game? What do you reckon the score will be?
I'm predicting a very cagey game. I think a lot of our fans would agree that we played better against teams that are much more open. Ipswich left a lot of space last night in behind because Stephen Ward's not the quickest wing back. Fair enough, he's a good professional. He's played at Premier League level, etc., etc. But I wouldn't say he's a wing back at all.
We don't rate him. I'm just saying that now. We don't rate him at all.
There you go. And Gwion Edwards is a winger by trade, not a wing back. So he's obviously going to leave a lot of space in behind when he's steaming forward. So yeah, going off topic a bit there, we play a lot better against teams that give us space to play our game in. And I feel like Swindon will sit deeper, and they will look to frustrate us, but I do feel like we have more quality as a unit to beat them. I don't think we'll beat them as comfortably as we beat you guys, because obviously Swindon are fighting for their lives just like ourselves. So I'm predicting a close game. I hate predicting the score, but I would like to think we'd win maybe 1-0, 2-1. So yeah, very tight game. Expecting a very different test to what Ipswich and Accrington are giving us, but I feel like we can get the job done. I feel like there's a confidence there now that we can finish the job off, as it were, and stay up, as I've expected us to do for ages. Even before we started winning, I was seeing enough in the performances to suggest that we keep our place in this league. And yeah, I feel like we can do it now. I'm confident.
So thank you very much for appearing on the show. We really appreciate it. Where can people find you on social media? Yeah,
it's at Chris Thorpe _ on Twitter. Just drop me a follow. Obviously, I do some work for Football League. Write quite a lot about Ipswich, actually. Have done a lot since the start of the season. Really enjoy covering the Tractor Boys, and I hope that you guys eventually get up to the Championship. Whether it's going to be this season or next season, we'll wait and see. But yeah, no, you can find me on there. I also share a lot of stuff about the Back to Plough Lane program that I do for Wimbledon. And yeah, I'm happy to interact with anyone. And if anyone needs any advice about getting involved in working in the football industry, just send me a DM. I'm more than happy to help people out, because for me, there's not enough people that help each other in the football industry. There's too many people out for themselves. And, for example, when you came to me and said, "Oh, do you want to be on the podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, great." We all need to work together, especially during tough times like this, like the pandemic. So yeah, no, drop me a follow on Twitter if you fancy, and yeah, we'll have a good chat about football.
Absolutely fantastic. And we will be back live again tonight at 8:30. We'll be joined by Stephen Parry. So get involved there. We'll be talking about news, as we've already reviewed the match here today. So we'll be talking about the takeover, the consortium, and Paul Cook's cagey post-match press conference, where he basically called out the entire squad. But once again, thank you very much for joining us, Chris. And thank you very much to the people who've joined in the comments. I'll see you later on at 8:30 p.m. over on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So thank you very much.